We'll be starting shortly. Can I have your attention, please? I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome to the Planning Board meeting for January 24th, 2008. Tonight, we do have two public hearings on. The first matter being 133 Clark Road, and the second public hearing being 206 and 200 Rogers Street. We also have a pre-application session for 229 Stedman Street. We have some old business on 292 Chelmsford Street. And at this point in time, I would like to request that we take the order of agenda out of order and clean up some old business on 392 Chelmsford Street, if that's agreeable with the board members.
Objection.
No objections? No objections? Okay. Therefore, on the old business, we have 392 Chelmsford Street. The board will review an updated site plan for the project at 392 Chelmsford Street. The revision includes a small change to the vehicular entrance curb cut. The original plan showed the curb cut to be reduced to 25 feet. The applicant is changing the width to accommodate delivery trucks. May we hear the case for the applicant, please? Could you get a mic there if you would, please? Oh, she's coming.
It's coming.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, ladies and, gentlemen of the board, ladies in the audience. Hussein Sevinchkil with MHF Design, Salem, New Hampshire. We're in front of the board on January 7th. We received approval for the plan. After the meeting, we looked at truck circulation, and we've been in discussions with Aaron Clausen and Jeffrey Gomes of the traffic department. And we basically had to widen the entrance-only driveway. Initially, we had an 18-foot wide entrance. When we first started the process, the driveway was wide enough to accommodate a truck, but because of the modifications from city staff, we had to narrow it down, and we missed out on that. But we had to widen the entrance driveway slightly to get a truck to be able to come into the site. And in the process, we actually narrowed the driveway exiting the site, which was a recommendation of the planning staff. So it's a very minor modification. As you can see in the plans in front of you, it's just the entrance driveway. We had to widen that in order to accommodate a tractor trailer in and out of the site. And that's really the only revision that we've had.
Thank you, sir. Anybody here want to speak in regards to this project? Or anybody with you, sir, or anybody else? Are you the only?
I'm the only one.
Okay. Any of the board members have any questions in regards to the modification?
Just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, if I might, not on this plan, but what's there currently? What's the size of the curb cut at the current Burger King?
The existing curb cut is currently 34 feet. The proposal will be about 29.
Okay, your plan showed it reduced to 25, but it's actually going to be about 29 with this revision, is that correct?
The way it's measured, the actual opening of the curb entering the site is about 25, but the city measures it to the curb return at the street, so that's about 29.
Okay, so this plan that you're proposing now would be 25 plus the turns of approximately 29
Correct.
in total,
But overall, it's a reduction from the existing
from 34 to
driveways.
29.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board members have any questions? No? None? None? Anybody else here want to speak on this proposal? In favor or against? Hearing none, what's the wish of the board?
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the updated plan with the modified curb cut.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes yes. Any against? Hearing none. Motion carries. 5 in favor and none against. Good luck, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're
Have a good night.
moving along, the next matter is our first public hearing. A public hearing, this is 133 Clark Road. A public hearing will be held to hear all interested persons relative to an application by Jeremy McSorley for special permit review for a project located at 133 Clark Road. This proposal seeks to modify plans that previously received a special permit in order to relocate the lot lines. One lot will have 40 feet of frontage on Clark Road and consist of 51,393 square foot of land area. And the second lot will have 60 feet of frontage on Clark Road and 20,064 square feet of land area. This project is located in the suburban, single-family zoning district. The project requires special permit review under section 5.2.9, frontage reduction for large suburban, single-family lots of the Lowell zoning ordinance. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, James Flood, 81 Bridge Street, representing Jeremy McSorley, who's with me here tonight, along with our engineer, Jack Luigi. I think you're all familiar with this piece of property because we were in before you in May with a plan very similar to what you have tonight, where this board did approve the splitting the lot into two separate lots, one with frontage of 60 feet and one with frontage of 40 feet. We will be back once again before this board at another date on the driveway, and I think you have a letter from the building commissioner in your package. When I initially filed this application, the building commissioner indicated to me that he thought the driveway satisfied the requirements of the zoning ordinance, but he has since had a change of heart, I guess. So we're going to have to come back at a later date with a special permit for the driveway, which is very close to 200 feet. So that will be filed in the future. What brings us before the board tonight is that Jeremy now intends to keep the existing home that was in the Blazon family for many years. He's going to move his parents in there, and he wants to construct a home on the other lot. Now, in the first plan, we were going to tear down the Blazon lot and come in. That was going to be the larger lot on the right, and the smaller lot we were going to build a house on to the left. The frontages are going to stay the same. If you look at it from Clark Road, the lot on the right will be 60 feet. The lot on the left will be 40 feet, but the larger lot will be on the left where he intends to build his house. And I think the square footage on both lots is very, very similar. So I'll turn it over to Jack to explain the engineering, and if you have any questions whatsoever. I have the other plan with me if you want to see it, but, one other thing I wanted to point out. The last time you approved it, there were certain conditions. One was the easement from the city, which I've given you a copy of tonight. The other was, well, the others have to do really with the driveway, which I will present to you an agreement when we come in for the special permit on the driveway. And as far as the further subdivision, I think we could cover that with a note to the plan. So I think we've covered the conditions of the prior approval. So I'll turn it over to Jack if he can explain the engineering.
I'm Jack Luby from Dana Perkins' office. We were before you, as Attorney Flood said, in the spring. And the reason that we have to come back is because he's not taken the existing house down now. And so in order for me to fit that on a lot and have it conform to zoning setback requirements, that lot had to have the 60 feet of frontage. And if you look at the plan, there's a 20-foot, I have the house 20 feet to the left sideline. So it was impossible for me to fit that house on the lot the way it was previously configured. So what we did was we basically switched the two lots. So now that's the smaller, the 20,000 square foot lot, and the remainder goes with the larger lot.
I think the size of the lots are about 20 square feet difference. One's 20 square feet larger,
Yeah.
one's 20 square feet
To what they were before.
smaller.
Very similar.
It's basically, what it basically is a lot line relocation, really. I have nothing further.
I think originally we had submitted a plan with this application that showed where the proposed house was going to go so that we could get a ruling on the length of the driveway. So you might also have that in your package. But we're going to have to come back to you for a special permit for the length of the driveway. So that, you know, you'll get that plan with that submittal.
Anything else, Mr. Luci? No? Mr. Flood, you have anybody else who wants to speak on behalf of the applicant before I turn it over to the public?
Nope.
Okay. At this point in time, anybody like to speak in favor of this project? In favor? In favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. This time I'll turn it over. Anybody like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none. The board did receive a letter this evening from an abutter who is against the project. This is a two-page letter by Patricia Nichols on 143 Clark Road. It should be the property to the left, correct, if I'm looking at the plan?
Right there.
Yep.
We just received this tonight, so this give the board members a chance, I think, to digest it. Have you received this, Mr.
No,
Flynn?
I haven't.
Okay.
She wasn't going to be able to make it tonight, so she emailed it to the office.
Yeah. Indicates
Before the
the
meeting.
the woman could not make it this evening, so she gave us a copy.
Well, I don't know how to respond to this, Mr. Chairman. I think she's talking about the new driveway that's going to be put in there and the new development. I think the house that's going to be built is going to be way back and not closer to Clark Road.
Yep.
We're going to leave the existing house there. She sold us the land, part of the land that's part of the subdivision. We're removing, the driveway that was there before was closer to her house. And I don't, you know, when we come back with the driveway, then we'll discuss with her screening, but that's not what we're here for tonight.
Okay. I just
We're
wanted to
just
give you an
here for the-
opportunity to see
yeah.
this, Mr. Flood, because we'll be putting this in our record.
Right,
Thank you.
I'll keep it in my file, and then we'll consider that when we come back in.
All right, thank you. We will put this in, part of the record, as indicated that Patricia Nicholas from 143 Clark Road is stating that for a couple of reasons, that she is an objection to the special permit being issued. One, basically, she says her first concern was that the plan calls for a house to be closer to Clark Road than before. And I think Mr. Flood says that now they're keeping the existing house and building the one in the back. The second concern would be for the placement of the driveway. And I think as Mr. Flood said, if that does come back, that's come back for the special permit because it's going to be over 200 feet, correct?
Right.
And that's, when you were before us last time, I believe, you indicated that you'd be coming back before us anyways for the same reason. If it stayed over 200 feet, you'd have to come back.
Right,
Okay.
but we're just here on the lot lines tonight, so.
Okay. So, anybody else want to speak in regards to this project? Hearing none, I'll turn it over to the board members. Before I do that, let me just ask, Mr. Luigi, we received a couple of comments from, in our packet, some we received recently and some older ones. I don't know if you had a chance to look at some of those. One is dated the 22nd from the city engineer. Did you have a chance to see those? Okay. Could you just address those before the board members have questions? Because they probably don't have the same questions I do. And if you could address those, then maybe we could spin off on those questions to start, if you don't mind. If you could start with the city engineer first, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I think she was doing a review of the plan that showed the building and the house and the driveways. On that plan, there's a proposed addition to the house, the existing house on Clark Road, and the deck was shown to be in violation of the setbacks. The architect is working on that right now, and he's reducing the size of the deck, so that won't be an issue.
Okay.
The locus map, I changed the direction of the north arrow on that. Drainage plan is not shown. Again, she was reviewing the special permit plan that showed the building, and I'm going to meet with her on that about the drainage because the new stormwater management regulations specifically exclude single-family house lots from the drainage, from the stormwater management policy. So I'm going to have to meet with her on that. When we submit the other plan for the special permit, that's probably a better time to address that because it has to do with the driveway. Again, the other two comments, the next comment about the reduction in the amount of impervious, I'll have to give her a calculation that shows that. But again, we'll do that when we submit the driveway plan. And then the narrative that I submitted talked about the existing sewer easement that the city gave to the previous applicant that allows the sewer to go out to Douglas Road, and I think Attorney Flood gave you information on that tonight, so that easement does in fact exist. But as far as the drainage and the calculations on the impervious, I'm going to meet with her on that when we go for the driveway permit.
Thank you. Any of the board members have any questions or concerns? Mr. Jenny?
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, last time you were in here, I had some questions about what was somewhat of an odd-shaped lot. You know, I'm concerned about creating lots in the city that are just odd shapes. You know, I don't think it's the right thing to do because we're going to be stuck with these for a long time. And the last lot had a bit of an odd shape with a piece of dead land kind of behind Mrs. Nichols' property. But this one is extremely odd. I mean, it comes to it creates this piece of land behind the McQuaid property here, which is going to be part of the lot of the house, the existing house on Clark Road, but it's really creating this very odd shape with this dead piece of land behind the McQuaid property. And I'm just wondering, and I know that this gentleman intends to use both of these houses. One is going to be for his parents or something, so it's really not as much of an issue because I'm sure that the property will be shared. But eventually, that won't be the case, and we're going to end up with this house with a very odd-shaped lot. I'm curious why you wouldn't take the larger house and set it back a little bit more so that you could square that lot off to at least make it a little bit more usable by the house on Clark Road.
Yeah, the reason is we were trying to get as much backyard as we could.
And we wanted to leave 20,000 square feet with that other lot, too.
Well, so you're required to leave 20,000 square feet, so that's why you have this little island of land connected to that lot, but it's really not a lot.
Well, it's double the size of most single-family lots in Belvedere, Mr. Jensen, because it's
Well,
20,000 square feet.
I know that, but it's still, you're required to have a lot of 20,000, in order to do this, you're required to have a lot of
Right.
20,000 square feet.
Right.
And I don't really think this is a lot. I think it's, you've got one lot that's about, probably 12,000 square feet, and then you have this other island of land that's connected to this lot by a narrow strip. it's a very, and I think, I think, oh, I know technically it is.
Zoning requirement.
Well, I know, but that's why we're here, right? Because we need to take a look at this from a little bit of a higher level and say, you know, does this make sense? Okay, because if all you had to meet zoning requirements, there'd be no reason to come to a board for approval. So I think we need to look at it as a board and say, does this make sense? And I think it could really be easily resolved by setting this house back a little bit more. And that actually might alleviate some of the concerns that Mrs. Nichols has, because right now, the way this house is, the garage is going to be, 20 feet from her property. So maybe that would alleviate some of her concerns as well. I'd feel a lot more comfortable if you could set that house back a little bit more. You could still have a significant backyard, because, as you pointed out, Mr. Flood, that this is going to be a 51,000 square foot lot, right? You could still have a very large backyard and side yard, set back that house back a little bit more, maybe adjust it so that it's more, so that it faces the street, because right now the house is at an angle, which I also think is going to be kind of an odd configuration. I don't know. I would feel a lot more comfortable if you could square that lot off and make it a little bit more usable. That's something that the builder would entertain?
Have to talk to the client about that. I can't make that decision for him. He has to make that decision.
Aaron, I mean, what's the feeling of DPD on this? We have this kind of hourglass-shaped lot here. Is that something that we think is a good idea?
Well, this is, as Jack had pointed out, it does meet the zoning requirements. But as far as usable space, that area in the back is kind of, as you'd mentioned, with it two people in the same family owning those lots, it's not such an issue. Going down the line, the building on Lot 18 that has the existing home, it does minimize their usable open space. That being said, I would still say, even if you didn't count that nub, or whatever you want to call that, on the end of that lot, if you took that out of the equation for usable open space, that lot still has a fair amount, because it's a fairly large lot. Kind of with you on these strange lots, and it's something that we don't necessarily want to promote, but it's not necessarily one of those things that, looking at the special permit criteria for passing it, it doesn't appear to encroach on the neighborhood character of the area. You still have the existing house, which is of similar size to the existing homes. The lot is of similar size. It's larger. It's narrow, and a lot of it sits in the back, but it's still a fairly sizable lot, even with that, again, nub in the back. So it's not the most preferred lot size, but thinking of it, looking at it from the street, say if you're driving by or walking by, it's not one of those things that's terribly going to affect the neighborhood. The person it's really going to affect is the person who owns the house.
Right, and as you mentioned, as you reiterated, it's not an issue if it's two families, the same family owning both of those lots, but eventually that won't be the case. And I don't know. I just don't think it's good practice to create such an odd lot like that when there's an easy remedy. And I realize it would mean taking up a little bit of the backyard, but when there's such a significant backyard there anyway, I think it could be easily done. It's my feeling.
I didn't design it, Mr. Gendron. There must have been a reason for it. You know, the house that was designed, and that's where it was placed, so I don't have an answer for that.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I don't have an answer for that. The house was designed to fit into that space, and I don't know why it was put there, so I don't have
What do you
an
mean?
answer.
This is your lot design. This is your lot.
It's not my house design.
No, but you're bringing forward these lot lines, right? This is not something that
And
is
it was
existing.
designed to fit the new home in the new lot that's to be established, and then satisfy the 20,000 square feet
Right.
on the
So
other.
it's obvious why it was done, right? Because you had to satisfy the 20,000 square
Absolutely,
foot.
absolutely.
And so, in doing so, in order to maximize the land area for the larger house, this little island created by a small strip of land has been connected to another lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's obvious why it was done, But I just think that, from a planning perspective, it's not a good practice. I think that what should be done is a little bit of that backyard should be sacrificed. The larger house should be set back a little bit more. That lot should be squared off. Then it becomes more of a usable piece of land for the second lot, and I'd feel a lot more comfortable with that from a planning perspective. I had another question regarding Mrs. Nichols. You had said that you were going to, at the last meeting, you said that you were willing to work with Mrs. Nichols on the driveway location, and she claims that she wasn't contacted regarding that. Is that true? Do you have any intention to?
No, I haven't spoken with her, no.
Okay. You know, I think she, being a direct abutter, and this new house is going to be 20 feet from her property, I think it would be nice if there was more communication there. And I think there's a little issue because she feels like she sold you the land under false pretenses. That's not the issue, right, in my opinion. But the fact that she is, we did ask you to work with her regarding the driveway location, an issue she raised at the last meeting. And, you know, she hasn't been contacted regarding this. I think it would be nice before we, you know, went forward with any approval of a lot line change, that there'd be some discussion there.
We have to come back to you, Mr. Gendron, anyways, on the driveway. And I think that's the time, when we're discussing the driveway, that issue can be handled. That would be my opinion.
Yeah, I see that, but there's been a significant change here to the configuration of the driveway, right? So by approving this lot plan, there's a pretty significant change to the whole configuration of the lot. So,
There's not that much of a change, in the back there's a change, but in the front there's not that much of a change from the prior plan.
yeah.
And I think that Mr. McSorley, being in the landscape business, will probably do a pretty good job and talk to her and find out what she would like to see for screening. And I'm sure that they'll work that out.
Plus, we are preserving the existing home that's been in the neighborhood for many years, so.
I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Any other board members?
I have a couple.
Mr. Lockhart, go ahead, please.
Is it your intent to leave mature trees wherever they're located, particularly down, I think in the southwest corner, it was noted there were a number of good-sized trees. What is your intent there?
As far as I know, he would probably like to leave as many of the mature trees as he can. You
So
know,
none of the
there's
construction really
There's
gets-
quite a bit of grading associated with the house, so I don't think anything close to the house would remain, but certainly
Right.
he would be in favor of that, I would think.
Can you comment on the size of the footprint of the new house? It looks, looking at this plan, it looks like a rather large footprint.
It is.
And how is that going to impact the neighborhood character with the other small houses around it?
Well, it is set back from the street, and there will be significant landscaping between the street and the house. So, you know, it won't be a big impact to the streetscape. As far as being behind the Nichols house, she will probably be able to see it, no problem. But
Well, yeah, I would think so. Just from a size standpoint, a square footage, can you make a comparison with the existing homes in the neighborhood right there? I mean, is it twice as large? Is
Yeah.
it
it is.
It's twice as large as
Probably
it-
at least twice as large,
intended to be more than one story?
yes.
So it's going to be a rather large structure. How many square feet in total?
I'm not
building
sure.
space?
I'm not sure of the footprint.
How big is it?
It's
Your
big, though.
footprint is what, 8,500?
8,500.
Yep.
So you're looking at maybe 17,000 square feet of home
Maximum, yeah.
maximum. Okay, that's pretty large.
I just want to point out, Mr. Lockhart, he did speak with the other gentleman next door and has agreed to put a buffer along the back. I
Yeah.
think that's where you're talking. portion of that lot. So he's done that, and, I mean, I have no problem on the driveway if that's a condition, so.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other board members? Mr. Claremont?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In just reviewing the letter that we received tonight from Patricia Nichols, and I know we touched on it earlier, but it still confuses me. She's got a couple of concerns, and one's relating to placement of the driveway. I understand we'll deal with that issue at a future date. But she said there was some sort of a surviving agreement concerning no building located closer to Clark Road than my garage. And I'm not sure what she's referring to there, if she's referring to the fact that the existing building is now going to be retained and not demolished. Is that closer to Clark Road than her garage? Do we know what she's talking about there?
The structure that's shown on my plan, the existing house is closer to Clark Road than her garage. It exists that way now.
I'm guessing, but that may be what she's referring to. I think the original proposal was to take that down. There was going to be a subdivision that all the buildings would be behind her garage on Clark Road. That may be what her concern is there.
Again, I haven't seen the letter, and I'm not privy to the information in the agreement, previous agreement.
When would you expect to be back with the request for a special permit on the driveway?
Pretty quick. He wants to build in the spring, and obviously he can't do much until he gets his permit, so I would anticipate, the plan is pretty much ready to go, so we would probably submit within the next week or two.
Yeah. How would you feel about, it's an open question, a continuance of this matter until you come back with the special permit, put both matters on the same night, give Ms. Nichols an opportunity to be heard on some of the issues she may have, and give you an opportunity to speak with her about her issues?
I'll defer to the attorney on that one.
Well, it's up to you, Jeremy.
I think he was looking to get some progress, that the owner was. And, you know, all of these issues will have to be addressed at the special permit for the driveway. All of the issues, it seems like most of the issues that have come up have had to do with the driveway and the abutters' concerns, not really the lot line difference.
Right.
I mean, that's another, I think the final design of everything is based on the final layout of the lots, Joe. And if, you know, we go to the additional engineering to come in with the driveway, and then you don't like this at that time, then where are we? So I think we'd like an approval if we could on this tonight.
Well, from my own perspective, I think you're within your rights to subdivide it in this manner. It fits the zoning criteria. It's probably not the optimum, as Mr. Gendron has stated. You know, a cleaner design of that would be preferable, but I mean, that's something that you probably need to deal with yourself come time for resale or whatever. I mean, that's your decision, so. But I am concerned about some of the issues raised by Ms. Nichols. I think that some of them will be resolved once you have a discussion concerning the driveway, and it may be a matter of just having a discussion with her will resolve some of those issues. So I would prefer, if you have the opportunity, to speak with her prior to making a final decision on this. That'd be my personal preference, but I'll pass it on to my colleagues and see their thoughts.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just chime in, I think that's a good idea that Mr. Claremont raises, especially given the fact, I mean, as Mr. Lockhart pointed out, this is a 50,000 square foot lot. That means the house by code could be as large as 17,000 square feet. So this could be a huge house. And the current representation has it, you know, about 20 feet from Ms. Nichols' property. I think it would be advisable to give her an opportunity to review it and make comment on it before we take action, especially since you need to come back before us for the special permit anyway. That's my feeling.
Well, you know, I don't think we're here to discuss a house, really. And if the location of the house conforms with zoning, I don't know whether that's within your jurisdiction. Now, how big is the house next to yours? How many square feet is that?
How is that relevant?
Well, it's in the neighborhood. It's in the neighborhood. That's about the same size. Well, if you're talking about this house being out of character with the neighborhood, I don't think it's any bigger than what you have next to you, and not much bigger than the house next to that. So, my problem is if we design a driveway on these plans and then you, at a later date, you don't like those plans, then we've got to come back again. And, I mean, we've got a vacant piece of property that I think under the zoning, we have a right to separate it into two lots, which we've already done, and we're relocating the existing lot line. I mean, that's what we're asking you for.
Mr. Fischett?
Mr. Chairman, if I just like to get a clarification on the lot with what now would be an existing home.
Lot
and-
18?
Yes. And Aaron, if I could just direct this to you, would this fall under 5.1.10 under lot width? Each lot shall have a width of not less than 80% of the required frontage of all points between the sidelines of the right-of-way along the frontage of the lot. I just want to make sure that
Yeah, we took a look at that, and it is above 80% of the frontage. So it just makes that, I think the frontage is 60 feet, and it's at 52 or something like that. It's just at the margin, so.
If I might, the 40-foot width, we have more than 80% of that width all the way back to.
That I can understand. I'm talking about lot 18, though, where it gets down to, matter of fact, I don't see how narrow it is to get to the back lot. Just curious as to what the,
I think isn't it between the house and the road, Jerry?
if it's 60 feet, 80%, that's 48 feet.
Does it say it's between the house and the road?
Let's see, 85
I don't think
frontage
that
on the lot measured.
that requirement.
Nearest
is
point
for
of the
rear
front
lot.
wall. Okay, the front wall of the, use in a right-of-way front lot.
Yeah, Jerry, because the
Oh, the
area of
structure on
that,
the lot, yep,
the area of that lot that is so narrow is behind,
is behind it, not
house.
where the structure sits, I understand.
correct.
Okay. Because that was put in there to try to address the odd-shaped lots.
If you came in with, and then
Yep.
split it out,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the purpose of that.
okay, just wanted to make sure that this wasn't applicable. Now, I certainly agree, it's not, certainly the ideal way to carve up a lot, as I look at the zoning and try to grapple with, there was some provisions in here that trying to eliminate the odd-shaped lots, but certainly this seems to meet what we currently have. I do have concerns trying to look at this without taking the driveway into consideration and how the proposed home sits on this lot, but have you looked at, and I don't know if you could take a look at that, but is there a way you could carve that up so that you would still meet your 20,000 square feet, but come up with a,
It wouldn't be a regular shaped lot if it had to have 20,000 square feet. If you just took 60 feet back to the back where it jogs out, that's not enough land for 20,000 square feet. So there has to be additional land to go with the lot to get the 20,000 square feet.
and believe me, I'm aware of Form A lots that have been carved up with a narrow strip to get to the 10,000 square feet, and it gets approved at the building department because it meets the requirements, so I certainly understand that, but I can understand the concern with the configuration of the lots as it sits.
I think anyway, from looking at it, Jerry, anyway, if he moved the house back, anyway, in order to satisfy that 20,000 square foot strip, I think you'd need another little piece along the
You know, I
the
tried
back
it
anyway,
9
so
ways to Sunday,
I
and
don't think there's any way we can do
it
it.
still has to have a piece of land back there to get the 20,000 square feet.
Yeah, but you could square it off. You could move the house back and square it off and make that
have
land
an
more
L-shape.
Then
accessible.
it'd be
piece,
like a,
would- yeah.
it'd be like a T then, Steve, it'd be a little different.
I think that would be more,
Get the same
I don't want
effect.
to step over Jerry, but I think that would be more acceptable
Well-
than a narrow,
You know, that could be, I mean, if, when he's gonna sell it, and if it's a marketing situation, he could always do it at that point in time, but I think right now, this satisfies the requirements.
No, that's all I have at the moment, Mr. Chairman.
I just have a couple of questions. One, if we approve the lot line adjustment, then obviously, the prior vote that we had on May 21st, '07, that would still be valid, correct?
Excuse me?
The vote that we made back in May with the conditions, the conditions that we approved back on May, the four conditions on the lot?
Right.
Okay. Those conditions would still remain, correct?
Well, I think I gave you evidence we've satisfied one.
Right.
On the
So I'm
easement.
saying, like, the
Yeah.
other one would be...
Oh, I have no problem with that, no.
Okay, that's
No,
what
I
I'm
have no
getting. I
problem
mean,
with
there's four conditions. One, you did give us the easement.
Yeah,
The other one is to come back if it's over 200 feet, which you have to do
right.
by code
We have to
anyways.
do now, although we were told we didn't, but now we do,
Right.
so.
And then the other one, that the applicant must remove the previous approved 5-lot subdivision.
Right, which is never, we've never had it signed anyway, so it's
Okay,
never been.
So
really-
these would still be valid, would still go along with these conditions as well with the
Yeah,
lot change?
no problem.
Okay.
No problem.
If we do approve the lot change tonight,
Mm-hmm.
and if you come back for the special permit on the roadway,
Yep,
and if that gets denied, then you can't put this building in as required, as you're requesting, correct?
correct,
Right.
yeah.
So if we do the lot line tonight, a lot of the issues that are coming out with the driveway, if you don't satisfy it the second time around, so you're gonna need two favorable votes from us. Two
Absolutely.
different meetings to
Right.
make this pass.
Right,
Okay.
Yep.
So we'd have to vote favorably tonight and then be satisfied that we're satisfied with the special permit for the 200 square foot vote for the driveway to meet the concerns of Ms. Nichols and well as the concerns that we have as well for the driveway.
correct.
I think I had one other question. There was, I think I had one question maybe from some of the other comments that we might have received. No, I think Jack addressed that one. That was the one from, about the deck application, should we submit the updated plan showing these dimensions? This was from Mr. Camacho. Did you see that one? Okay, you have no problem with that. I think you addressed that one, correct? Okay. And he also talked about the driveway width, which we've agreed to. Water utility was in favor. Traffic engineer was in favor. Let me take a look. Conservation was approval. Board of Health. Okay. No, And we did receive the deed, and that looks like the easement deed had been recorded. I believe it was stamped on the back, Mr. Floodback.
Right, it's registered land, and it's, you can see the, on the
Right.
front page, you'll have the certificate number.
And that's stamped and dated
Right,
June of '07,
right,
so that's on file. Okay,
right, it's all recorded.
thank you. I have no further questions. Any of the board members have any further questions?
Just one, Mr. Chairman, if I could. On the last plan that was submitted after the 5-lot subdivision, when you came in for the 2 lots, did that plan also maintain the current house, am I correct?
Excuse me?
It did not?
No, we were gonna take that down.
That was gonna come down?
We were
Was that
gonna
gonna be
take it down.
moved at all? Or, when that house came down, was the site of that, the rebuilt property going to be moved at all?
I don't understand your question, Joe.
Yeah, I'm concerned with the placement of the house. It seems to be a concern of Ms. Nichols regarding, she feels there was some sort of an agreement that no building would be located closer to Clark Road than my garage. She appeared at the last meeting, And I know we went through it and we approved it based upon the fact that there would be some dealing with her when it came time for placement of the driveway, which was one of her concerns. But at that time, you're saying that house was gonna come down.
That was gonna come down, right. Yep.
All right.
And
she may have anticipated that all of the buildings would then be behind her garage. When she talks about some form of an agreement,
no, I know of no written agreement, and there's no restriction in the deed, but I think that's what she's referring to, because there was gonna be no new house closer to Clark Road than,
yeah.
but I mean, I think everybody knows what's going on with the real estate today, and so he feels it's better at this time to maintain the existing home.
Okay.
So I want to follow up on that. So all the first plan with the 5 lots would have all been behind where her garage are now, if I remember correctly?
I looked to see if I had that file
Yeah.
with me, and I don't.
I think I might have.
Yeah, 'cause I remember,
I don't know whether they are, Tom. I think there was one up front. I know the existing house was coming down.
yeah, I remember both plans, the existing house was coming down.
Right.
And I think I remember the first meeting, we had Mr. McQuaid talk about, to his property to the right, that there was an easement so he could get around to get the back of his property.
There was gonna
And he had
be a
no problem
house-
with that.
There was gonna be a house near her property line, because the roadway was closer to John McQuaid's house.
Yeah, there was gonna be, it looks like, well, here's the plan.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay. It looks to me like there was a lot there, which would have been right next to her house.
Right beside her house, I thought there was one.
1, 2, 3, 4. And there was a total of 5
Yeah,
that was approved.
and her garage was right there.
Okay.
I
And
think
then,
wasn't there one right beside her house?
Looks like.
well, yeah. I mean, you would have had lot 16, it looks like that house might have been built behind her garage, but obviously if lot 16 was approved.
I think that's existing.
Oh, this, okay.
That was an
That-
existing
You're right,
garage
you're correct, okay.
that they took down.
I remember that now, you're right.
They couldn't have put the house there because it's too close to the lot line.
Right, that's what I was gonna say, plus it looks like it might be abutting the property line or almost on it, which means you wouldn't have the
Right.
side yard.
Yeah.
That's the one that
There's
came,
a lot next to her,
okay.
her lot.
Yeah.
And this was the 133 that was going to be raised, it's gonna stay there now, correct? Right. And that's the address that we're talking about, okay. All right, thank you. I'll give you this one back, that answered my question. Thank you very much. Any of the board members have any further questions or concerns? If not, would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, even though the driveway issue will have to come before us again, the placement of the lot lines is going to dictate where this house can be located. And since the current representation leaves it, 20 feet from Ms. Nichols' property, I would like to make a motion that we continue this matter till the next meeting to give the director butter a chance to make comment on the plan.
Yeah, and just a point of clarification, would you be ready to come in with your special permit request by the next meeting?
How's the advertising
I
work?
don't know, that's the next one or the one after.
It's 30 days, it's the same kind of advertising, so you'd have to apply 30 days prior to the meeting,
Yeah.
so.
Because our next meeting, since we're meeting on a Thursday, next meeting is the Monday after the Super Bowl, which is February 4th.
We have to publish.
Wouldn't
so.
make the public deadline.
Yeah, when's the next filing deadline? Alan, do you remember?
I have.
The second meeting in February?
Okay. I have it, Mr. Flood, if you bear with me for a second. Where are we here? Boom, boom, boom.
By the 22nd.
February
Yeah.
8th.
So it's middle deadline for public hearing. Yeah. He wants to get on for February 21st. He already passed it, right? So the earliest he get it would be March 3rd, right?
Apply by February 1 to get
I don't think we can get into March.
March 3rd.
Yeah, I think what I'm
March
reading
3rd,
is,
is it?
if for public hearing, you have to have it in February 1st to meet the deadline for the March 3rd meeting.
Yeah, we could probably do that. That gives us a week and a half.
Yeah,
And
and
then
that
after
is
th-
our next meeting, so if you can have it in by then, we'll do both at the same time.
Well, see, next meeting was here, then we're here.
But once again,
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
third meeting.
Yeah, third.
Right.
Joe, that might involve another design too, so that's, if you don't approve this, then how are we gonna design a driveway? Because then we gotta figure out where we're gonna put the house.
But I think in this case, the primary concerns are being raised by the neighbor, and she's raised some issues this evening that we don't unfortunately have the opportunity to talk to her about. Some are relevant, some may not be. So I'd like an opportunity for you to be able to speak to her, show her the design, show her where you're proposing the driveway to be, and maybe that'll alleviate some of her concerns. So just whenever you feel you can come back in with a special permit, I'd support that motion to continue.
So there's a motion made, and have you seconded that motion, Mr.?
Second.
Okay. There's a motion made and second for continuance. All in favor, say aye.
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 So that's the third, so this is continued also.
So for you to make the March 3rd meeting, you'd have to have the submittal by February 1, which is a week from tomorrow.
Week from Friday.
Week from tomorrow, right?
Yeah, you can do that, Jack, right? Thank you.
All right. The motion carries, the matter's continued, and to be February,
March 3rd.
to March 3rd, and the submittal will be on February 1st. Thank you. Good night. Thank you. The next applicant wants to set up while we're moving our plans along, feel free, counsel, okay? You want to put your stuff up while we're... Next matter for public hearing is 206 and 200 Rogers Street. A public hearing will be held to hear all interested persons relative to an application by the Rogers Street Association, LLC, for a special permit and a site plan approval for a project located at the above address. The project includes the conversion of 2 existing buildings on site into 12 condominium units, ranging in size from 900 to 2,000 square feet of living space with over 3 parking spaces per unit. This project requires a special permit under Section 8.1, conversion of existing buildings. It requires a site plan review under Section 11.4 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. This project is located in the traditional neighborhood 2-family zoning district. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, David Plunkett, representing the applicant here tonight. With me here tonight also is Keith Bourgeois from the developer, from Troy Mead, Richard Mead from Troy Mead, and Jeffrey Cook, the architect for the project. Mr. Chairman, as a overview to recap where we are, this is a project that we had obtained a site plan approval, I believe it was over 2 years ago, for this entire area. The first phase is under development, and at this point there have been 8 units sold. The Lot 9A, the 39,006 square foot lot that we're currently here on, there was a denial of the request for the conversion back at the time of the original hearing. That is currently in litigation, pending either going through the court process, or our hope with discussion is that we can come to some sort of understanding to move this forward here tonight. 2 things that we have done, key matters I think that has to hopefully address the concerns of the board from the initial hearing. Actually, before we get to that, just for the record also, we did meet with neighbors and the abutters, and our thanks to Ann Kavanaugh, the Friends of Fort Hill Association, who helped coordinate. It was actually 3 weeks ago tonight. We had the meeting in the mayor's reception room. So through her organization also, she coordinated and notified all the direct abutters also. And we had a good meeting. There were, I think, approximately 7 to 9 neighbors there that night, and we went over everything. I think, you know, it was a good meeting for everyone knowing what was going on. It seems like they, were happy with what has happened. Key things for the development of this lot, 2 issues that I think have been addressed, is that the board now has the ability to see what has happened with the initial development. And that was, Mr. Chairman, I believe it may have been your suggestion initially at that point to do a 2-tier request just to see how the first phase came out. And I think if anyone was going through the project, it has been a very successful development in terms of, blending into the neighborhood through the process through the planning board, and also very strongly through the historic board input, that we now have a neighborhood that is, I think, anything that anyone would have hoped for, and blends into that neighborhood beautifully. The workmanship, my client has taken great pride, and I think it shows in the final product that you have there at the site. In addition to having that ability to see what is there, we have also taken steps in terms of reducing the impact by reducing the number of units in the main building now, originally proposed at 9 units. And at that time, under there were no waivers, no variances, nothing of that sort. So we've reduced it from the 9 to the 8. Under the current zoning, that leaves us, again, no variances, 1 waiver. Under the terms of the ordinance, though, specifically stating that the grant of a waiver for the square footage, that the board would look to whether there is available recreational use in the area, and certainly the location of this project directly opposite Fort Hill Park, walking distance from Shed Park, and it's certainly in line with the necessity of the, not we're stuck, but we have the square footage of what is there in those buildings, and we've been able to reduce, but we have some fairly large units, and I think to reduce further, you're getting into an area of not proper utilization of the space and going out of the bounds of expectation of marketability of the units. By reducing the number of units in the gymnasium, just referred to the gymnasium, it actually also has a benefit in terms of the preservation of the existing roof line. The original plans were that there was going to be some, we're still going to utilize the upper space area, but it's going to be mostly for storage type area for lower units. One on the end facing, I guess that would be the northerlymost end of the gymnasium. There will be some bedroom space, but they're going to utilize the existing windows that are already there. And so we have another added benefit in terms of the roof line preserved. So basically that building, there's very little change to that itself. Retain what we had proposed with the first proposal with the front building, where basically there, nothing changes at all. It's going to look, the way it looks today is how it will look after the project is completed. With the result of reducing the unit, we have reduced 3 parking spaces from the plan to create more green space. Excuse me. I know, talking with Mr. Clausen, one of the issues, questions of whether, potential of planting trees, and my client would certainly be willing to include into this what's shown here now. It originally was planned just to have, green space in terms of a lawn area, but we would certainly be more than amenable to including in each island the planting of a tree in those spaces. And basically, that is the proposal. The The plan has been originally approved. Our modifications are the reduction of 3 spaces, still, again, just to get to the point, though, that it's still going to maintain that overall unit to parking space of 3 to 1, a little in excess of the 3 to 1, which is more than 50% in the zoning ordinance requirement. The preservation of the Rogers front building, as you look at it now, that's what it will look like when this is completed. And the preservation of the existing roof line at the gymnasium. Again, I only have one easel, so what I might do is just spread out these here, also showing the elevations for the gymnasium post construction. Mr. Chairman, I think that's really, pretty much the proposal that we have here before you. Again, we have Mr. Cook here, Mr. Mead here, and myself, willing to entertain any questions or concerns.
Thank you, Counselor. Anybody else want to speak on behalf of the applicant before I turn it over to the public? Hearing none at this point in time. Anybody here like to speak in favor of this project? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody here like to speak in opposition? Could you come to the microphone, please, sir, and state your name and address for the record?
My name is Arshi Singh. I'm from 6466 Hank Street. First of all, my question to the board chairman is that how do you, a board looks at it for the public interest, that what kind of interest is looked up for the public rather than the developer?
You asking me that question?
I'm asking the board because I don't know how.
Well, basically, the scenario here, sir, is you're either to either speak for the project or against the project, and we make our determination as required by the zoning code.
Okay.
So if you have any opposition for it, you can state your reasons why your oppositions are. I'm sure each one of us, will, when it comes to our turn, we will speak our mind on the project itself. Obviously, we make sure that everything when it comes before us meets the requirements of the code. And we do also always look out for the best interest of the neighborhood and as well for the city of Lowell.
Okay, thank you. My now question is that since the project started developing, I found out after the fact that as they are developing on Hank Street, they have taken away the parking space for us, the people who live there. And the other side, there was parking space. Now the people can't park because the project is there now.
So they took parking spaces from your property?
Not from property.
Oh.
The people were parking on the street on the other side because there was no housing.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a housing development,
Right.
which is that,
Right.
is causing now congested parking.
Okay, go ahead.
And now I see furthermore that the development is going to be from two-family area is going to be 12 units condominium project, which is going to constrain more parking issue. And not only that, when people are visiting, how many visiting parking are there? I don't see that. And if further, it's going to create a problem for the neighborhood. People visiting, they're going to go around and park around. And it's already congested, and I see there's going to be a big problem for parking space.
Okay.
And in congestion.
The houses on the side of Hank Street now, that project has already been approved.
Okay.
They already met and exceeded the amount of houses they need under the code by the city of Lowell.
Okay.
They have over 3, and at the time, I believe they only needed 1.5, then it went up to 2, and now they've doubled what they needed to begin with. So they needed 1.5 when this project started to begin with, then they went to 2, then they graciously, when we raised that concern, the applicant said, we will address that concern, we will put in 3 houses there, which is not required by the code, but since the board requested that, we will do what we can to make the parking on that neighborhood satisfactory to this board as well as the members. So basically, for the houses that are approved on the side street now, those have already been done. What he wants now is the conversion of the building that's there, and they are meeting And what we tied them into the first time was, if they're gonna come back with this, they have to still meet the 3 parking. They agreed to that, we made a condition on that, and now on this here, they're exceeding the code on this requirement by having over 3 parking spaces. And a matter of fact, one of the questions that came up was that they have so much parking, why don't they make some of it in green space? So they have addressed the concerns of the parking as required by our code, as required by the Division of Planning and Development, and as required by what we requested when the initial plan came before us. So that is an issue that we need to keep a very, very close eye on, because we know the congestion on Hank Street.
But I see that because of the experience from the housing, and I've been working as a property management, and I have seen people, when they're visiting, the people, they don't have park, they go around this area on the street, and they park, and they take the parking space from other people
Right,
who are
I mean-
residents. So that's my concern here.
Right.
Even they have a 3 parking space, I wonder how many visitor parkings they have.
They're required to have 2 spaces per unit, and they actually have 3 spaces per unit, so they have excess parking for visitors. Are you saying that some of the visitors aren't getting on the site, they're parking on the street rather than at the site?
That's exactly what my point is.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure how to address that or police that. Obviously, if it's a legal parking spot, a visitor can park where they want, other than, the owners can hopefully address that and say, hey, we have parking within the site. There's plenty of parking here to pull into the site, not park
Well,
on the
I am
street.
coming from the real point of view that uses being there, that how the situation happens. So I just want to make sure, although you are very well educated about the area and everything, but still it's the issue that I see it from my point of view that I like to address it.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other concerns you have besides just the parking, sir? Any other concern?
No.
No? All right, thank you very much, we appreciate it. Okay. Anybody else like to speak in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, just one other factor also in addressing that issue, that at the time of the initial site plan review, pursuant to the request of the planning board, we reduced the number of curb cuts by feeding, some multiple houses off of this to keep and retain as much of the on-street, Hank Street parking as possible. So that was another step in addition to the 50% more than the current zoning ordinance right now. We also had reduced the curb cuts along the street to preserve as much on-street parking as possible, and I would suggest that, I would think that that's probably utilized more from the people on the street than the people in the project.
Thank you, Counsel. Anybody else want to speak in opposition to the project? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none. That portion of the public hearing is closed. Any of the board members have any questions?
I have a few.
Mr. Lockhart, I'll start with you.
I think you've done it, the buildings that are there now, it really blends in with the neighborhood nicely. The colors and everything, it's very pleasing. And you have agreed to look at the landscaping and the trees. I think that's an important part of the next phase here, to really lessen the impact of the asphalt. And so encourage you to really look at that closely and work closely with DPD. You're currently working with the historic board personnel and things like lighting fixtures and
Yes.
closely with them?
Basically, and that was one of the issues in terms of the overall landscaping was actually under the purview of the initial special permit from the historic board.
Yeah.
And they had their hand in the landscaping. And one of the things that was also done was, part of the initial Phase 1 development, part of the initial, actually, this wasn't from the historic board, from your initial site plan review, was that we had to submit to the planning department for review and approval by the city solicitor, the initial condominium document, and also more specific, I think what you were interested in was that we have the overall easement or easement area that actually restrictive covenants that we have on for the entire site, in which we tie in this landscaping to maintain it as a uniform landscaping for the entire site, to be in conformity with the the input we received from the historic board. And that was submitted to the Community Development Office and was reviewed and approved prior to our first conveyance out of a unit back
Yeah.
18 months ago, whatever it was.
The feedback from the different departments, I don't know whether you've seen all of these, a couple of them, wastewater department has indicated that the plans do not indicate a parking area runoff controls. Are you familiar with these forms?
Yeah, the wastewater, in terms of the original drainage calculations that were submitted, and what we did was we brought back another copy to the planning office, because, and again, that was reviewed and approved with the initial site plan, and really the end result in the approval was dependent on those calculations that showed that actual post-development was less water runoff than pre-development because of all the roof area that is being fed into, now going into drains, in-ground drainage, and the removal of the asphalt that was already existing, that we actually were less post-development than pre-development. And now the only change we've made at this time is to actually even reduce the impervious surface more by the elimination of those parking spaces and the introduction of those landscape islands.
Yeah,
So
no,
I
understand
think
what you're
that
saying.
we're
I think he's
basically
saying
relying
that
on the
the
initial.
plans seem to be inadequate, that's existing plans. And also the water utility is indicating that there's some changes that have to be made too,
Yeah, I know that the,
Or- some other needs.
in terms of the connection, and I know talking to the contractor, in terms of the sewer line, the water feed, it says he can't get a building permit until he satisfies the water department. So it's, if they need a 4-inch line, he gives them a 4-inch line. If they need a 6-inch line, he gives them a 6-inch line. If it's X number of dollars for the tie-in, he has to pay X number of dollars for the tie-in. I did see that. I spoke to the developer, and, we recognize that these are issues, but not necessarily an issue for site plan review, more in terms of, hey, when time comes, he's got to deal with them and satisfy them and pay whatever has to be paid.
Yeah, I just want to bring the comments
Sure.
to your attention, so
Yeah.
that make sure you're aware of it. And just to make sure you work with these people
Yes.
and clear them up. I think it was the traffic engineer made a comment about the convenience of some of the handicap parking. And one of them seemed to be oversized. Can you just comment on that?
The reality is we provided more handicap space than was required, and it actually was, I think that we based on, I turned to Mr. Mead for some input here, that we took the state guidelines and added on another increment to be certain that we were within what was going to be required. If in fact it's too much, we could reduce it.
Yeah, I think you should review that.
Yeah.
He indicates that one of them is quite far away from a building, and that kind of defeats the purpose of a handicap parking space.
Correct. Well,
Could you state your name, please, for the record, if you would?
yes.
Thank you, sir.
Richard Mead from Troy Mead and Associates.
Thank you.
The handicap spot that he's actually addressing is the one that's towards the end of the parking lot, and it's an extra handicap parking spot that we actually put in, not necessarily for the main buildings that they're converting, but also for convenience for the other units that we already have in there. In case there's a handicapped person for those units, they can utilize that spot, and it would be more accessible parking in there and then walk into those units.
And it's not taken, it's not a space that's necessary to meet the handicap parking requirements of the main buildings. It's more of a.
Correct. It was an extra one that we added, yes.
To be more of a, something there for that purpose.
Oh, yeah, and then also the ramps, the slope of the ramps, I guess, is an issue with that.
One of the things we received from
That's right, too, I forgot.
the traffic
forgot that,
and transportation engineer, he said the ramps are slope of 1 to 10, where it should be 1 to 12? You have no problem adjusting those, sir?
I have no problem at
Okay.
all adjusting that.
Thank you. I guess those under the CMRs, okay.
Just like to see some clarification of that
Yep.
whole issue. So it's very clear as to where they are, the distances from buildings, and working with the appropriate people here. Just one final thing. You're looking for a waiver of a lot area per dwelling unit, is that correct?
We have requested a waiver of the lot area per dwelling unit based on current zoning. Again, my actual feeling is that we have, our original proposal was, which is currently in litigation, and the plan that was approved was under the current zoning, under the zoning that we required no waiver. But just to say, look, we feel very comfortable with the fact that even if a waiver were necessary, we're well within the range of what's been approved by the board in the past, and certainly in line with the proviso contained in the ordinance in terms of what is the basis of allowing that waiver. And again, the proximity to recreational use, I would say, being so close to this park area, and we're trying to deal with the square footage that we have and make the best and most proper use of it. That's the purpose of the waiver, saying we'll come in for a waiver because we think that we meet all the requirements, and it's certainly well within the purview of the board under current zoning to grant that waiver.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Any other board members this time? Mr. Claremont, do you have any questions?
Thank you. Just briefly, I think it's fair to say that the project probably had a difficult genesis at Phase 1, and I think a lot of those fears have been alleviated with seeing Phase 1 well under construction and how well it's been constructed, and there's been a lot of good feedback concerning that, so I'm really pleased about that. And in terms of the waiver for lot area per density unit, I think the last time you were in, maybe on the preliminary hearing, we discussed the fact that it's being reduced now to 12 units, and even if we said, geez, we'd like to have 10 units, you're dealing with existing buildings, so a certain number of units need to be built within the building to make it, one, profitable, and two, to make it fit the building. So I think under those constraints, you can't divide a big building into 2 units. It just doesn't work. So I'm happy about that. Just to clarify, did the plan call for 42 and we're now putting 36 parking spaces? Is that what the final plan calls for here?
Let's see, it came out to, for this lot itself, it would be 12 times 3.5. But
So
it's, then basically we'd allocate 3 spaces per unit for the 12, and that additional excess would be for reserving for use of visitor parking for some of the other lots, and that's part of that cross-access restrictive covenant that was recorded with the beginning of it, given the right of access over and the right of us to preserve certain spots for parking at large.
So if we maintained that at 42,
Yeah.
would that leave enough space for you to do the additional landscaping that you're speaking of, additional tree
Yes, because-
plantings and things of that nature?
Yes, that's with these 2 lots, these 2 landscape islands as shown here, still is providing that 3.5 spaces per unit within Lot 9A, allocated over the entire site, and I think comes out to 3.1 spaces per unit. So we have more than the three spaces per unit developed, taking this as a site in an entirety, even though they're separate lots.
All right, thank you. I have no other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes, Mr. Fischett?
Just a few comments. First of all, to commend the developer meeting with the neighborhood. I think that goes a long way. And we don't see a lot of residents here this evening, so appreciate that. Also, you did come to us for the pre-application on this, and the comment of the landscape islands was suggested, and you did come back with that. And again, that always goes a long way. I do have some issues sometimes when somebody comes before us for a pre-application hearing and gets some input, and then, you know, they don't respond to it, so I appreciate that. Certainly would want to see, and you've indicated that, is the plantings that would go with that as well. Regarding the parking, I know that's, as far as most development of this scale in the city, I think you've probably exceed most of the projects that have come before us. So certainly, and I know parking is a concern. I think it equates to somewhere around 18 parking spaces for visitors, if you go by the code and what you have above and beyond that. And certainly the lot area per dwelling unit, with what you currently have approved, you're decreasing it by 1 unit, is that correct?
Correct.
And so you already have your approval, which did not require that waiver initially, is that
Oh,
correct?
no, I'm sorry, the special permit that is currently in litigation did not require any waiver because we were within the, at that point it was 3,000 square feet per unit. Then
Right.
it went up to the 4,000. So what we're currently in litigation with,
Yep.
you know, is under a ordinance that we required nothing, no variances, no waivers. You know,
Right.
we complied with every single component. And they say this time here, we're saying, look, even with this, we feel comfortable to say, under the terms of the zoning ordinance, you know, look at what we have, look at what the terms of the ordinance, you know, specify as grounds for the board to make a determination of that waiver, that certainly this fits into that, looking at the footprint of what we're dealing with in the proximity of these buildings to, you know, extraordinary resources of recreational areas, and it's a great, you know, potential for the people who are going to live here.
Sure, no, again, we've got one less unit, we've got more than ample parking, we've got increased landscape area. I have to say, when I originally looked at this, I was thinking of possibly that handicap spot being transformed into green space, but actually, I like the explanation of having that available for the other units. And so I'm actually, have changed my mind on that. I think it's probably a good feature to have on that site. So I really have no comments other than, or I would, in the form of, as a condition, is to work with the landscape design for the islands. But
We'd coordinate that through the historic board again,
Sure.
just to, and, you know, it's been a very good partnership, so to speak, in terms of the input and the end product, so
Right.
I'd be happy to do that.
that's all I have to say,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Mr. Genman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want a little clarification regarding the special permit that's currently in litigation. Can you explain that to me? What is that actually in litigation?
It was a denial for the units, for the conversion, which included 1 unit more than what we're proposing here today.
Right,
And at
so
that time, there was...
From a denial from this board?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
That
And-
must have been a couple of years ago or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't have approval at this point in time to go forward with the project
With these units, no.
with the units?
Correct.
Based on the prior land area per dwelling unit ratio?
No, that's the purpose of the litigation that currently exists, is it was a denial by the planning board at that time.
Okay. I am concerned about congestion in these neighborhoods. I mean, we've had a couple of developments not far from here. So the congestion issue is something that's important to me. I think that, I think 4,000 is really a more appropriate congestion, land area per dwelling unit for a development like this. That said, I am impressed by your ability to provide additional parking, as this gentleman brings up, especially in crowded neighborhoods like this. I'd like to see our parking ratios be a little higher. We've had other projects, one right down the street at the former St. Joseph's Church, where, that exceeds the parking requirements in the zoning code, yet the neighbors there tell us that since that's gone in, parking on the street is more difficult to find. So the fact that you're offering 50% more parking than is required by zoning, I think may alleviate some of the concerns that you would normally have in a development like this regarding parking. So that's good. The waiver on the congestion, though, on the land area per dwelling unit, that bothers me a little bit. However, I understand your position that the footprint certainly provides for enough space there to provide landscaping areas to keep it a little bit looser and not having buildings on top of each other. I like the fact that in the standalone units, you've got no more than 2 units together, which I think helps. And of course, the recreational area, the Fort Hill Park right across the street, and Shed Park not far from there. So I guess I'm convinced that it's worthy of that waiver, and it's also supported by the fact that the special permit is in litigation. So I guess I have no further questions on this. You are going to comply with the landscaping suggestions made by DPD.
We'd be happy to, specify this and coordinate with, Department of, with Mr. Clausen in his office and any input through Historic Board also, because they have had the input in the other areas of landscaping for
Right.
the site.
I'll echo what Mr. Frechette said about the meeting with the neighborhood group and addressing their concerns up front. Certainly makes our job a little easier when you get here. Thanks.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. I know we went over some of the comments from the city department. I think one, Mr. Plunkett, was basically, I don't know if we addressed this one yet, and if we did, I apologize. One, the fire department just says that the units have to be sprinkled. I'm sure you have
Yes.
no problem with that, especially for
No.
insurance reasons.
Yeah, and
Okay.
again, that'll be one of the things, talking to my client, that
Okay.
they have to comply with it, or they
Okay.
don't get a building permit or
Okay.
occupancy.
The other one they brought up was just, I know we talked about the ramp and the handicap. One question was from the transportation engineer was, the sidewalk shall match the existing or be made of cement, concrete. And he did talk about the driveways. He wants to see a little more detail on those, if you have any problems with that, no?
No.
One of the things he has for the turning radius, that the passenger cars seem to be okay, but if you're a UPS truck, we're either not able to make the deliveries, would have a difficult time, so you'd like to see the radii of the interior of the site be reworked to make it a little bigger. You have any problem with that?
The only comment I would have, our suggestion would be if we maintain, the fire department hasn't had any problems with
Right.
this. And currently, as it exists, with the use previously, all the UPS trucks used to come off of Rogers Street and make their delivery, and actually, all the mail is going to be, I think there's a central mail area in the vestibule in the front of the gymnasium building. So, I mean, our feeling is that actually we're better served by continuing to have any type of UPS delivery come off of Rogers Street, and then they have easier access or direct access to what is to be the delivery area for the meal for the 2 buildings. That's our feeling on that.
Thank you. Getting back to some of the background on this project, I know when it first came before us, we did approve the site plan, and then the special permit was denied. And I'm just gonna go back and go over, for the benefit of some of the board members who weren't here, some of the concerns that were raised by board members at the time that we did deny the special permit. One of the questions that you started off earlier saying, Attorney Plunkett, is that some of the board members would like to see this in a 2 stage matters coming in, so the neighborhood can see what the first stage looks with, then come back on the second stage. And if now you have accomplished that, I think by going up there, and I go by there all the time, it does look nice. It has nice effect to the neighborhood, where first I think people had a lot of concerns what the impact would be, but as it gradually starts to shape up, and the house is going in there, I think with a new addition, it's not gonna have the substantial impact that was feared by maybe other board members and myself to begin with.
I think that was part of the feedback we received from that
Your meeting?
neighborhood meeting
Good.
3 weeks ago.
And I believe at the first meeting, that was some of the concerns of some of the people, and I believe that was a concern of Ian Kavanaugh, who spoke at that first meeting as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Okay. Couple of the other concerns were, when you do the conversion of the existing building, one of our conditions under section 8.1, which you're applying for, was no substantial exterior design or alteration. I know a couple of board members had concerns of, you're gonna change the existing windows. They thought that might be a substantial change. Also talked about the roof line being changed, and they thought between the windows, with it being a historic building, if you start changing all the windows, because you do have a lot of windows on site, and they're pretty big-sized windows, and that was a concern of, I think, Chairman Zara Rules at the time. He addressed those issues. And also the question of the roof line, and some of the issues were that they thought, I believe he thought that, and because he stated that, some of the board members agreed with him, that may be a substantial exterior design. At this point in time, you're not changing those, so you have alleviated that concern that we had.
We are retaining the roof line as it exists.
Right,
or
and
just
you
trimming
indicated
Mr.
you're gonna
Cook,
keep the windows the same.
The windows are the same.
Right.
But those are important.
I also believe that we did address the area because of the lot, because of the land use dwelling being undersized, and I think when you hit back here last time, the board did ask you if you're willing to reduce the units. At that point in time, the applicant said no, he was not willing to reduce it, and I think that might have been one of the sticky points for the board's concerns. I see at this point in time, you have reduced that unit. You do have the overparking. You do have the ballpark area across the way, and as indicated, this is a conversion of an existing building that has been there, which is on the Lowell Historic Board Register, and I know you've been working with them, because this is under the National Register. So I believe by having that address, across from the Fort Hill, you do pick up the land that people can use across the way, and is indicated down the street. I believe one of the times at the first meeting, one of the neighbors said, well, people aren't allowed to go over and play on Fort Hill Park.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was a concern of mine, and this came back, I thought about that again. So I called the Board of Parks, and I asked them, they allowed to go play over there? And I was told yes. So the question was, well, is there any no trespassing signs up there? I go up there, I don't see any trespassing signs there. Board of Parks told me, it's not designed to have a ball field there like Shed Park is, but if somebody wants to play Frisbee there, wants to play catch with their kids, have a picnic there, they're allowed to use that parking area. Matter of fact, they do rent it out, that area up further where it's gated off, to different functions like, I believe they say Sacred Heart does it yearly for picnic activity and stuff in that neighborhood, and they get a permit. So I'm glad to see that land use is being developed, and people do have that right to use that land, where someone spoke last time saying they didn't have that right. And that came up as an issue at the time. So I'm glad to see that's clarified. I do think the project has come a long way. And then when you brought it back to begin with, saying, would we reconsider bringing it back? And I had no objections to reconsider it. I think our job is to make any project come before us a better project. And I think what you did now on this project, you made a good project, and I commend you for that. It looks very good. And
Thank you, and
I thank you on that.
truthfully, our feeling is likewise. I think it is a better, the end result is a better project than maybe first envisioned, and so the city and we're all the better for it,
Okay.
so
And I
that's,
appreciate you for that, too.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, I'm going to vote in favor of this project. I think you came a long way with it, and I think it is going to help the neighborhood out. And I think you've addressed all the concerns that we had at the first hearing, at least the ones that I can remember from being here the first time. I think, you did a good job with the parking, you did a good job with addressing the exterior of the building, the land dwelling, and everything else. And so I'm going to vote in favor of the project. Thank you. So at this point in time, I'll turn it over to any of the board members. Any further questions or concerns, or to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve. We have a site plan and special permit. I guess we'll start with the site plan, if we could, with conditions that the developer increase the landscaping and trees, as has been discussed here tonight, in conjunction with the DPD and Historic Board. So if they work with them on the landscaping plan, and work with the DPD concerning the proper placement of the handicap spots. Also approving the waiver for the lot area per density unit, with the finding that there are appropriate recreational facilities in the area, and they are converting the existing building. So I'd ask for approval first on the site plan.
There's a motion with conditions on the site plan.
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion is made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Anybody in opposition? Hearing none, the motion for the site plan carries 5 in favor and none against. Now we need a motion for the special permit.
And I make the same motion, Mr. Chairman, on the special permit with the same conditions.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's made in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Excuse me, I just wanted to clarify on that. I know
Sure.
a couple of things were mentioned earlier. I just want to make sure this is something that you didn't or didn't want to put in. With regard to water utility infrastructure, these are comments from the city departments. Water utility infrastructure, runoff controls and sewer connections. I know that's something that needs to be dealt with later, but is it something you want to throw in?
Well, I understood that and sprinklers and things of that nature have to be dealt with at the
All right.
permitting, at the building permit application
Yeah,
time.
they would, I think. That's right.
This is an objection,
Okay,
putting them in.
that's fine.
that's
Just
right.
want to make sure.
Yeah.
But I have no objection, we'll put those comments in as a condition of approval. They have to be met anyway, so
Yeah.
we can put those in as a condition of approval as well.
Okay, let me back up a minute then, if we could, going back to the site plan, as amended by Mr. Claremont, if that could be amended by Mr. Fischett, that we do improve the conditions that were requested that be addressed by the city boards, one being the fire sprinkler, and the one, I believe, which I believe you have to put in anyways, plus you probably won't get insurance without it.
Wastewater and water utility.
And just the wastewater water utility for the hookup.
Yeah.
And the other thing would be,
Drainage.
and the other thing would be, just to have you, with the, I think it was, the other note was the sidewalk, which came out from the other plan, just to make sure that that's, this,
Traffic engineer.
yeah, he had one question on that one, which one was that? That the sidewalk be either concrete or the same what's there now? You no problem with those, any pocket? Okay. You incorporate those as form as your motion?
Yes.
Jerry, no problem? Aaron, do you have those, or any questions on those?
Nope, got it covered, thanks.
So backing up, the motion and the second has been amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And back, and then moving on for the site plan, that motion has been made and by Mr. Claremont with the additions and second by Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Okay? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All board members vote yes. So those, both matters have been approved with conditions, and hopefully that should complete the project and then the litigation.
Yeah,
Good
it
luck.
looks good. I'll be right back, Tom.
Good luck. You're welcome. Moving along, the next matter we have is on the new business, which is a pre-application session. Excuse me, thank you. The next matter is a pre-application session. The following individuals have requested for the planning board to provide a preliminary review of their proposed project at the address listed below. These are not public hearings. Each project will require a public hearing at a future date. The planning board renders no decision, nor guarantees any future decision, whether positive or negative, on any project that receives pre-application review. This process is for information only. And the project we have before us tonight, the project address is 229 Stedman Street. The applicant is the Daily General Contracting, Inc. The project is for commercial office building, and it's zoned light industrial, and this matter would require a site plan approval at a future date at a public hearing. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Hi, my name is David Daly. I'm the principal of Daily General Contracting and the Daily Group, as well as actually Pride Star EMS, which is going to be the primary occupant of the structure that we're proposing to build. The project that in hand that you're looking at tonight is a preliminary review located at 229 Stedman Street in Lowell. It literally borders the Chelmsford line on the southern side of the property line. Currently, the property consists of a 34,618 square foot lot. It formerly housed a single-family home that had been resided in for about 50 to 60 years, and was in pretty tough shape. We actually raised the property. We purchased the property back in, I think it was late November, and we raised the property. It was a single-family dwelling at the front of the easterly side of the lot, and also there was a lot of trees that we took down as well. So right now, currently on the lot, we're doing some site work, moving some dirt around, getting some fill in. I don't know if any of the board members have been up there. It's a significant grade, but actually we're going to try to utilize that to our advantage. Currently, we're doing this project. The building is going to be, the building envelope is 120 by 72. And the reason why we were doing this is the Daily Group is the administrative offices for the Daily Group and Daily General Contracting, as well as Pride Star, are located on Stedman Street, actually right next door to this project. And our operations for the Daily General Contracting, our equipment, and as well as Pride Star EMS are located at a different site. So our goal was, as we've been looking for land, is to streamline operations and the administration into one area. So it just makes things a lot easier. What we're proposing to the board tonight is, as I said, the building envelope of 120 by 72. The square foot of the building total is going to be approximately 17,500 square feet. Of that is going to be split in half. The building that you're looking at here is going to be, this is going to be first floor. This is actually facing south of the building. This is actually the front, and again, these are only proposed elevations at this point. Below that is going to be the parking area for the ambulances and some of our heavy equipment if needed. What our proposal to the board is to provide parking up on a first level. So this actually level you're looking at here is actually with street level. The other access driveway down to the back of the property is about an 8% grade driveway and goes down to another 14 spots, which again goes around this building here. It allows for parking. In the building itself, which we haven't encompassed into the parking ratios, would allow for about 20 ambulances. They're 10-foot by 19-foot spaces, I believe. 10-foot by 20-foot spaces, actually. So there'd be about 20 to 25 ambulances technically we could actually fit in there, but we have not included that in the actual proposal tonight. Per the zoning code, it would require about 27.5 parking spots. What we've shown here in this initial proposal, preliminary design, is 28. My engineer and I have talked that there's a possibility to add 4 or 5 more spots. 3 to 5 more spots. Additionally, with this building, what we're trying to propose is what I've done with some other residential buildings in the past. I've been before the board for other projects, industrial, residential that we've built. I'm trying to go with some green concepts. I'm meeting with Aaron and the city engineering department to try to incorporate some green building design into this building. Some of those concepts we're going to be talking about tomorrow at a meeting. So again, this is all preliminary. This design is preliminary, but I guess it's got what I consider some nice architectural appeal, which I like. And again, this is a building we're looking to inhabit for 20 to 30 years. So it's something that we want to do, with some nice architectural appeal to it as well.
Okay, for the record, my name's Jack Sullivan, Sullivan Engineering Group. And on the conceptual site plan I put together, you'll see that due to the site grading changes, there's about a 30-foot drop from Stedman Street to the rear of the property. It would require extensive retaining walls. Dave's come to an agreement with the abutter on the Chelmsford side to allow grading into that gentleman's property. Dave's going to grade in and then do some landscaping for the gentleman next door, which will eliminate the need for the retaining wall that runs along the existing city limits, which is great. We'll end up eliminating 50% of the walls on this site, which was one of the things that I'd rather see, like a landscape buffer than a 8-foot high retaining wall, and I'm sure the board would too. So, like I said, Dave's actually going to enter into an agreement on that, so I think that's a positive for this project. As Dave stated, we're trying to utilize how the grading works on this site now. the reason that the building's going to be situated where it is, we're going to build the building into the existing slope on the northerly side. And then like he spoke of, we'd like to utilize the grade so that he could have the access underneath the bottom layer of the building. This project will have a fire sprinkler system. We have done soil testing on site for stormwater. We found it's all sand. It's beautiful material. So this site will fully comply with all DEP stormwater requirements. It will be serviced by municipal water service as well. And that's it. So like Dave said, we're going to have an upper level parking lot and a lower level. There's not too many options. Before, Dave and I spent some time trying to figure out some other layouts for the parking, but we're a little bit restricted with what we're doing due to trying to maintain. I don't want to exceed like an 8% grade coming around the back to service this building. So but that limits kind of how I can lay out the parking lot. There is a little bit of change I can do to try to add 4 to 5 more spaces on the upper parking lot. Also, one thing that should be noted, there will be landscaped islands provided in the parking spaces in compliance with the zoning bylaws. As you see it now, there was one island shown in the upper lot, no islands in the lower lot. I'll obviously provide landscaped islands with trees every 50 feet in accordance with the zoning bylaws. There will be a dumpster for this project located at the rear of the property. There are wetlands that are off-site. We've made an effort to stay 100 feet away from those wetlands. The landfill abuts this project to the rear. The wetlands were flagged by a botanist, and so we'll look to stay outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. I guess at this time we turn it over to the board to see what sort of comments you might have.
Thank you. Any board members have any questions or concerns?
Would like some clarification on the use of the building again.
Actually, the first floor is going to incorporate office space primarily. In that space, we're going to put our executive offices, our dispatch center, our employee room, our locker rooms for our employees, and any other necessary requirements for ambulance day-to-day functions. Secondarily, there's a possibility that due to the size of that office space, there's a possibility that we might subdivide some 2,000 to 3,000 square feet should the need present itself for office space to rent out or to lease out. Below that is going to be all parking. The basement's going to be a big open 12, 14-foot high parking area, which is going to encompass all basic warehouse space. So we park our vehicles. In that, we'll have a mechanics area and a car wash, a small car wash. But we will incorporate into this, the necessary drainage for the car wash area, and as well as any type of potential oil retention system. Oh, actually, the other thing before the board tonight was preliminary. Due to the fact that most likely there's going to be no more than one, potentially 2 tenants here, what we would request of the board tonight, we're asking of you, is for a waiver of the traffic study. The area up there, this is in the Lowell area actually, is one of the last actual, this is one of the last actual single families, and it's now going commercial. And at this time, there hasn't really been any issues with traffic on Stedman Street, especially in that area. I don't believe, I actually one of our offices are next door. I've never had any issues with traffic. And due to the fact that we believe that we were not going to have an actual effect on the traffic in the area, we have another satellite base up in Haverhill. So we're looking at maybe 8 to 10 employees during the day. And because we split shifts up in Haverhill, it looks like it's really not going to be an issue with traffic. And essentially asking the board tonight to waive that traffic study.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What, do you anticipate the space that's available for rental? What type of rental is going to be? Just office space primarily, not retail or anything like that?
No, the only thing that would go in there is potentially like a law office or an IT type of computer. I've already been approached by 1 or 2 different businesses, and they were both, well, by no means, it's not, obviously, I don't have to tell you guys, it's not zoned for retail. It would only be office space for IT or or a computer company or something, or real estate actually is Mel, maybe.
Who are your abutters up there right now?
Directly on the side is a gentleman, I actually don't recall his name. My brother's been dealing with him. He's actually lives in Chelmsford. Right over here is the industrial park where my industrial condo is, so it's all commercial on the northerly side of this project. So this gentleman right here is actually, it's a residential house in Chelmsford, and we've actually, like we had indicated, worked out a deal to grade into his lot. He's actually preferred that. He doesn't want a big wall there. So we'll work out whether it be an easement or just an agreement to grade and landscape, and we've agreed with that already in writing.
Are you gonna need any permitting in Chelmsford for working on his site, or is it just,
As far as we're concerned, because it's just going to be grading, I don't think so. We've obtained the abutters list in the Chelmsford site as well. So as far as I know, no. We're looking into that now. We haven't done any grading on his lot right now.
I see you've got some references to drainage system, which I'm assuming you're gonna need there. Can you just give us a little more detail on that?
Yep, based on what I stated, we did do soil testing. It's real nice sand material. What I'm looking to do is provide deep sump catch basins in the upper parking lot that will drain down to the lower parking lot, enter into a storm scepter, and then go into an underground Cultec recharge system. I'm going to size that to handle the 100-year storm event. The water table's not going to be an issue. We're going to be in an area of fill there anyways. So I'll be able to design something. I'm thinking of using the Cultecs. That's what I usually use. They can handle the traffic loads, and they provide good storage for stormwater. Unless, like I said, we're meeting with the engineering department tomorrow. If they have some ideas some green ideas that might work better for this, we're open to that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad to hear you're incorporating some green ideas, so
Yeah, that's good.
that'll be interesting to
That's
see how your final plans work out, but I have no other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Your parking lot up front, one to your left there, the beginning one, how many spaces will you have there?
15.
So there'll be mostly the people going in and out of the building, you think? Right.
The upper parking lot will encompass most of our office space personnel, and what our goal is for our ambulance personnel and contracting to go through this entrance. They would park in the rear because they'd access their ambulance in the morning by going into the main garage.
So basically, all the parking in the back would be for the ambulance, and the parking up front would be...
Office personnel.
Personnel, okay. You mentioned just briefly about, you had some wetlands. Are those in Lowell or Chelmsford or both?
They're in Chelmsford,
Okay.
not in Lowell. But early on, where we abut Westford, that's why I asked Dave to get the certified abutters list. So any public hearings, Chelmsford, I keep saying Westford. I don't know why. I'm not. But they'll obviously be involved. They're an abutter to the project,
Right.
so we're going to do dual mailings when
Okay.
we send out for the public hearings.
Yeah, we've had that before. One time when we had some land that was part Lowell, part Drake.
Right. And just on your earlier comment about the parking lot, we're actually going to add a staircase so that people from down below, if they need to get up to the office area. Right now, the only way shown on this plan, if you looked at it close enough, you have to walk all the way around the
Because
retaining wall.
that back
and out.
parking lot's gonna be lower than the...
It's going to be lower. It'll be lower by like 8 to 9 feet. So I'm going to provide a stairway so that people can go up and down. And
Could I just see the architectural plans one more time, if you don't mind, please? The way you have those plans up there where your thumb is, will that be facing the street or the parking lot?
Unfortunately, this one is facing the parking lot.
Okay.
This is currently facing the street. We're going to actually put a set of doors up front here, and we're going to wrap. Currently, this is cantilevered. The building's going to be actually cantilevered for some solar purposes. We were talking about.
For the
So
green,
in
right?
the summer it's cooler, in the winter it's warmer. So this is I think it's a 6-foot cantilever. We're actually going to wrap this concrete pavement around here so that. And this is the front of the building, and we'll put a set of double doors here, and dress up the front, obviously, some more.
So can I just touch on that green issue for 1 minute, if you don't mind?
Sure, yep.
So what will the exterior of the building be made out of, like? Will it be brick?
There's
or-
going to be about a 15 to 16-foot basement wall, but that's going to be underground. So that's going to be concrete. On top of that, I'm going to do a 2x6 construction, which is, the standard is 2x4, obviously. 2x6 incorporates green material into 2x6 with increased insulation. You get better, obviously, insulation and thermal values with the 2x6 construction. So that goes with the windows and the insulation. On top of that, obviously, the type of windows we're going to we're going to install in the building as well. This first, probably couple feet here, it's going to be, he's showing masonry, but there's a product that I like. It's a Chardonnay ledge stone. It's a very nice, stone. It's not, I've just did it on a different project. I've done it on other projects. It's a nice stone. And on top of that, we'll bring it up to here. And then we're going to do some either wood shake or some cedar shake, cedar shake or some vinyl shake on the front dormers here. And we're going to do some masonry accents as well. Also, if you see with this cantilevered here, and do some nice custom columns sitting on the lally, on the actual the walkway.
Yeah, 'cause I'm just trying to get a concept of what it looks like. The architecture looks good, but I'm just trying to figure what it actually look like instead of black and white. You know?
Yeah.
Okay. Will you need any variances or anything, or everything complying, or?
Everything's compliant. We're actually, obviously it's a LI zoned,
Right.
and there's not much requirements.
Yeah, look at the chart on the plan.
Yeah,
There's
it's
not
like
much you're
not
asking
required, not required. But we will, obviously, our intention is to be here for a long time. So
for. Okay.
I built other projects in the city. I want to build something we're proud of, and we want to, you know.
Thank you. Any other board members have any questions? Mr. Genman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in your bottom floor is going to be housing for your vehicles, your ambulances. How many ambulances will be in there?
We can park up to probably 20 to 25.
So 20 to
Yeah.
25 ambulances.
Yeah.
So the parking outside will be strictly for employees?
That's correct, yeah.
So that all the ambulances will be located inside?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you said it, but across the street, what's across the street from you there?
Across the street, right here, is it's an opening to a large industrial complex. It used to be on the front, used to be Granite Electric.
Okay.
And then you go down behind Mount Pleasant. And just to the left of that is a dirt driveway, and it goes down to, I think it's dirt, and it goes down to a residential house, and that's across the street. And obviously immediately next door is the industrial park.
Right. Curious, is it typical for, ambulances to come out with sirens on? from
No,
the facility?
most of our business is what's called non-emergency work. We have a lot of contracts with nursing homes and assisted care facilities and hospital insurance companies. So most of our work, I'd say upwards to 80% is non-emergent. So we're just transporting people.
I see.
So there's not a lot of lights and sirens.
Okay. So you said that you abut the landfill in the back?
Yeah,
Is that
it's the actual landfill itself is significant. It's probably, I don't know, maybe it's a.
Right. But the actual fill of,
It's way back. They actually, that seems to have caused that pseudo wetlands there, and we're within that
Yeah,
butter system,
not
butter,
surprised.
that 100-foot buffer. So.
okay. Yeah, so there's no issues with excavation in that area?
No, obviously that was a concern of mine, and we did our homework ahead of time, and there's been no evidence when we did the digging or anything.
Okay.
Nothing.
All right. So I don't have any other concerns. With so many ambulances coming in and out of there, I guess I would be a little concerned about waiving any traffic study.
The only issue with that is, obviously, we've built this for the long term. Currently, we have 7 ambulances. And out of those, we're getting maybe a couple more, but they'll be out of the Haverhill division. And we have another 6 or 7 share cars. So upwards of maybe 13 vehicles, 14, 15 vehicles. I just have an issue with the fact that we're out early, we leave early in the morning, and those trucks don't come back usually till 6, 7 o'clock, the shift ends. So they're satellited all day. So it's not like they're coming in and out all
Right.
day.
I don't know, do we even have the authority to waive traffic studies? Is it in a pre-application session? It seems kind
I
of.
think they'd have to do it formally at the,
Public hearing.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, they could ask for it ahead of time. I think a lot of times what we do is, sometimes we can make a determination on that ourselves, or we could refer that, we could be referred for comment to the traffic engineer. At least get some feedback back from them preliminarily, what
Right.
their feelings are, and then let the applicant know that
Right.
if they feel it warrants it or not. A lot of times we do make a referral on that.
That's fair.
It seems like it would be a pretty simple traffic study if it's really not going to have any impact, so.
Yeah, not
But I
much.
mean, at least by the referral,
Get us comments anyway.
on one of the meetings that you may be having with them, if you run that back, then we could have something addressed on that issue.
Okay.
I mean, and then if they obviously feel that it warrants it, then that could be a requirement that we
Absolutely.
impose.
Absolutely. That's fair.
One other question, have you, even though it's mostly industrial space around you, have you spoken with the owners of those facilities?
We've spoken
Obvious.
with this gentleman right here.
Right.
And then there's a myriad of owners in here that I'm actually one of the tenants. And so far, I've spoken with 4 or 5 of them, and they've not. It's all like contractors, so they're all giving me their cards. So no, they've had no opposition to it. I've had no opposition.
Yeah, it would
Even
be
this gentleman
just,
who has a single-family house.
yeah, just, it's always a good idea to try to head off those issues before you come to the planning board.
Yeah, we're gonna try to I'll try to meet with all of them before the.
Mhm.
Mr. Fischett, any questions? Okay. I think basically what the guy to the left here in Chancellor would probably have the biggest impact.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he likes the thing being graded, maybe helping him out in that aspect, and if you don't have much traffic. And I mean, it is, a light industrial. I know that part of, one of my major concerns was trying to fill up some of our industrial sites, which we don't have many filled up, and we don't have much industrial left in the city to begin with. Because I know a lot of times when people go and try to create other types of use in the industrial, we're always saying, well, we're reducing it, we're not utilizing the industrial. So it's nice to see something coming in industrial for change, because we really haven't had much opportunity in
And
industrial in the
obviously, it's been
future.
underutilized. In the light industrial area, 35,000 square foot lot, it was taxed as a single family. The tax base is significant for the city as far as what the total tax base is gonna be when this project's finished. It's gonna significantly increase the value. I don't like to admit that, but you gotta pay to play, I guess. You know?
Yeah, I guess you can go through the rebate process like a lot of other people are doing, I don't know. What it is, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
The more you make, the more you spend, I guess.
That's it.
The more you pay, I guess.
Always happens.
Any other further questions from the board members?
I have none.
Let me just ask one further question. Mr. Daly, you said you met with Aaron in the past. Can I just ask if he has any concerns, anything he wants to add? Aaron, anything you want to say? I know Mr. Daly said he's met with you before, and you're meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, no,
Any
tomorrow, I
concerns
think,
that you want to address to us, or anything that you want to, any comments you want to make?
there's no concerns I have right now. I'm actually I'm looking forward to sitting down tomorrow and looking at some opportunities, putting some green building techniques. I think the site particularly lends to that south-facing, that wall really can take advantage of solar access and potentially put in some solar panels. But that's something we can talk about tomorrow, and wouldn't want to pressure you to do that. But the site and the layout of the building lends to some potentiality to put in some landscape green techniques and building techniques. So, but other than that, the site, he's pretty much on. So.
When would be the appropriate point to ask the traffic engineer as to whether the traffic study can be waived or should be waived?
We can address that tomorrow, actually. We have a meeting tomorrow, I think it's at 9 o'clock, and
Yeah, the earlier
Jeff
the
Gomes
better.
should be around, so we can talk to him about that then and see about that.
Great.
Thanks.
Maybe if you have any input towards that, you could relay that on to us? I mean, once his concerns are one way or another? And even before the plan comes back in, so at least we get some initial feelings on that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And
Anything further?
the applicant, Dave hasn't applied formally yet for site plan review either, so that's something, there's plenty of time. Whatever feedback we get from Jeff, that could be incorporated into the application.
Get your comments and our comments from the DPD and the city engineer, and to really reduce the green techniques. And then you have to present pass in our formal application next Friday. You have a week to make those amendments.
I just had one question, and
Sure.
it's for Aaron more than anything. On these pre-application hearings, do the town departments ever generate comments back to the board, or is this really more for just the board to take,
Yeah.
to have their eyeballs look at it, make comments off the cuff, because
Yeah.
my concern was like, with engineering, I know on some other sites, they like to see some off-site, like sidewalks constructed along the frontage, but on Stedman Street, there are no sidewalks.
Right.
So, that was just my main question.
Yeah, typically, we don't send out these plans to all the different city departments. If you want, I mean, we've met with Dave in the past in different projects, but if you want, you can come in and we can call in whatever department you feel like that you think there might be some particular issues. But when it comes to a pre-application session, it's just to give the planning board a heads up so they get a feel for the project and they can tell you what their concerns are just from looking at it. But tomorrow, I mean, if there's any particular issues we can address, you give me a heads up, we can bring different departments in. But from DPD, with those, especially with sidewalks and some more basic questions, we can certainly deal with that at the time too.
Yeah, a lot of times the sidewalk goes to what's existing up there now.
Right.
I mean,
that was the
if
thing.
nothing's there on that street, then all of a sudden, we're not, usually they ask you to say, well, put it in front of you. I mean, if the continuous one comes up to your property, we kind of like want it to continue, or if it's even down the street a little further, we encourage that, especially in the residential neighborhood, as you know. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it could be misleading to put in a sidewalk for a half block or, 150
No, I mean-
feet.
Any further review? All right, well, good luck with the project,
Yeah,
and hopefully we'll see you in the
nice job.
future. Good luck.
Thank you.
We wish you well. Moving along on the agenda, we've already covered the old business. We have other business. We have notices from budding towns. If there's no concerns, request a motion to place those on file. Motion's made and second. All in favor, side. Those matters are placed on file. Any general correspondences? We have a couple of matters in the packet. Anybody have any concerns about those? There was a couple of things that were in with the notices from budding towns. Any concerns on those? Having none, we'll move on over to the Zoning Board of Appeals legal notices. These are notices that are scheduled for public hearing before the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is scheduled for January 28th at 6:30 PM here in the City Council chambers. These matters we make a recommendation for and to be held at the public hearing. The first matter is for a special permit and variances, which is GB New England LLC, care of James Flood Esquire. This is the property located at 318 Bridge Street, 338 Bridge Street, 348 Bridge Street, and 23 Lakeview Ave, 41 Lakeview Ave, and number 10 West 3rd Street. This is the CVS project that we addressed at our prior meeting. The applicant zoning bylaws, this is an urban mixed-use zone. The petition is to raise 3 buildings located on 6 parcels and construct a pharmacy, building in excess of 5,000 square foot drive-through and parking lot, and relocating existing billboard according to sections 12.4A, 12.4B, 4.53, 6.14E, 619, 6110, and the parking lot, and relocate, and section 6.5. As indicated, we took this matter up at the public hearing, and we did approve this with several conditions.
Based on our approval, Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval.
With the same conditions as the public hearing?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll second the
Motion
motion.
made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. That motion carries 5-0 in favor. The next matter is for a special permit. This is for a sign. This is for Casey Sign, Robin Casey for Satin of Lowell. This is the Satin dealership at 720 Roger Street. To remove and replace existing signage for the Satin dealership of Lowell. They have a package in the plan here. They're gonna take down one sign and put up another sign. I know a lot of times we do refer these to our sign review in Division of Planning and Development before it comes back, but the sign doesn't look too much different from what's proposed, proposal compared to what's existing.
It looks, Mr. Chairman, like there's a number of proposals. There's a proposal in the front there on
Oh,
the
and
facade
one
of
in
the
the back,
building.
okay, yep.
And there's also a proposal on a
The street?
pylon sign
Right,
they want to change.
okay. It looks like the one that,
Cars to Saturn certified.
Yeah.
pre-owned,
Usually the pylon signs are reviewed by the design person to determine that they, don't obstruct views or anything like that, so.
Make that referral to
We
that
should probably make that referral.
I think so,
Okay.
yeah.
Take that in the form of a motion, so
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So that matter will be reviewed for design review, and the recommendation will be forwarded to the zoning board of appeals at the public hearing for January 28th. The next matter is a variance by Juan Mejia for 868 Middlesex Street. This is a traditional mixed-use zone for the alteration and partial demolition of a vacant building of a church and 4 residential units with insufficient parking as an approval repetitive petition according to Article 6, Section 6.1 of the zoning ordinance. We saw this matter when it came back on Middlesex Street for the repetitive petition, which was allowed. We've received a note from Planning and Development that this matter is coming before us for a site plan on February 4th. So I would recommend that we hold off on making any formal recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals until we at least see the site plan.
I agree.
So I'd recommend that we hold off on this until we see the site plan.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Okay, motion's made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That motion carries. That concludes the recommendations for the Zoning Board of Appeal. Any of the board members have any further comments before we adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I had one comment regarding the meeting on February 24th, is it?
Yeah, I believe I have a copy of that.
It's a Thursday of that week, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the Thursday of, excuse me. Yep.
We had, previously, we had discussed the potential of
Is that one?
moving that meeting. It's the week of February vacation.
Okay.
I don't know if we ever took any action on that.
What we did the first time is yeah, we still have it scheduled now for the 21st, that Thursday night, because the Monday night was the holiday. So it's not for the Thursday. So that, I know when we voted in for the new dates, I think we changed the one on April 21st, because that happened to be a holiday. And I believe at the last minute when we accepted these dates preliminary, I believe you indicated you couldn't make the 21st, is that correct, Mr. Jen?
That's right.
Do we know if we have much coming up, Alan, for the next 2 meetings? I know the 3rd, you probably have the deadlines in, since it's only a week from Monday.
Yeah, the February 4th meeting, we do have the
the
site
4th, I'm
plan for 868. And then for the following, for the February 21st, there is one site plan on Wood Street. We just got in for this last Friday.
Now, what does that plan consist of on Wood Street?
It's a commercial development. I haven't even had an opportunity to pull them out of the
I have a
box that they
problem with that.
delivered on.
You can't make the February 21st night?
21st, no.
No.
I cannot.
And Mr. Gentleman can't make the 21st night?
Yeah, I can't make that meeting.
Okay. How big did we do the legal advertisement for that as of yet?
Nope.
Okay. Is it a big project, you know? I mean, I know you haven't had a chance to see it, I don't want to put you in a bind if you don't know.
No, it's not a very big project. I think it's,
I mean, does it need a special permit or just site plan?
I believe it's just a site plan.
Because if it was a special permit, we couldn't do it with 3 board members anyways. So we either have a choice of either going forward with 3 board members, or we could continue the meeting. Could I make a suggestion that you let the applicant know that we only have 3 board members?
Yeah,
See if they
absolutely.
want to come forward, and then
Yeah,
after,
that
if
would
he could
make
get
a
back
lot
to us
of
by way of email communication, and if the board member can't make it, then I could told the board members in regards to rescheduling that meeting, or just canceling it due to the fact that the 21st is followed up again like we do this month to the following Monday being March 3rd. Like we have this meeting tonight, now we meet again a week from Monday, so it's really only 10 days.
Right.
Because of the Monday holiday schedule. So if he could check with the applicant and see, instead of having us have 3 members, have them come in, have them advertise, come before us and say, I'm requesting continuous, only 3 board members are here. That kind of puts, not so much the board members, but the neighbors are coming down, and kind of an inconvenience. So why don't you check with them and get back to me, and then if they're willing to continue it, what I could do is, I could call all the board members to see if they're willing to either, I really don't think we can continue it, because through the use of this room on every other night, we wouldn't be able to squeeze in the other night, with it being occupied on Monday night, Tuesday night.
I don't know if we can, this the Thursday prior, I don't know if that's even possible at this point, but that would be,
14th?
yeah,
Yeah.
Valentine's Day, yeah.
That's an idea.
I could do that.
All right. Could you check with them, Aaron, and see,
The Thursday prior to the 21st?
or either that or just putting it on to March 3rd? Joe, do you have any concerns on it, either way, that affect you? No?
Date is fine. I don't know if you can meet the deadlines by pushing it up to that prior date, but
Yeah.
whatever works for you.
Third is the night.
So, I mean, we could either go forward, so if you want to check with them, see the concerns are, let us know by way of email communication, we'll get back to you.
Yeah, there's, if you want to push the meeting to the 14th, we're close, but we could get the,
I'm sorry to put it when?
The 14th
if you wanted to push the
February.
meeting to the Thursday before, which would be February 14th, there is time to get the notification out. We just have to rush on that.
Mr. Chairman, just remind everybody, it is Valentine's Day, so don't know if we...
It puts a couple of meetings pretty close to each other, too, 4th and 14th.
When I get home, I tell my wife I moved the meeting to Valentine's Day. I might be in more hot water. Could make it then.
Another excuse.
Should be checking the minutes to see what time we adjourned. So, yeah, why don't you check with the applicant either way and get back to us, and then we can give you a formal opinion by the beginning of next week.
Yeah, I
Tonight
can
being
probably
Thursday,
let you
tomorrow
know.
being Friday. I don't know if you can reach him. If not, if you get the communication to us.
Yeah, I can probably get to him
All
by
right,
tomorrow.
and let us know.
Yeah.
So, any other issue besides that? If not, we'll take the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have adjourned. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Valentine's Day. Jeez.
Contract. Notice.